So now I hope you gained some impressions, and we very much welcome our commenter, Anila Noor. Yeah, you can come up. Anila Noor is a representative of different refugee-led initiatives, such as New Women Connectors, the Global Refugee-Led Network, and Global Independent Refugee Women Leaders. Anila holds 3 master degrees, including development studies from Erasmus University in Rotterdam. She's a refugee researcher examining social justice perspectives on gender and conflict, as well as forced migration and refugee policies in Europe. Currently, she's a fellow of the FFVT program, you all know this, and has been a fellow for the Open Society Foundation. She has performed advisory roles for the European Commission and the UNHCR and given guest lectures at Amsterdam University, Erasmus University Rotterdam, and Carleton University in Canada, among others. She's a member of the Emerging Scholars Network at the Calder Center for International Refugee Law at University of New South Wales. So Anila, you're invited to come up and share your comments and thoughts with us.
Thank you so much. It's really a privilege after listening to this video. I'm feeling emotional because all the colleagues you saw, we are working a lot with them. And I must say, when you are giving my introduction, you must be saying why she's everywhere, right? Because we feel privileged to have access to these domains, to these spaces. These spaces has very limited access for us as a refugees, especially women, brown women, Muslim brown women coming from developing countries is continuously struggle for us. And when it comes as an academic domain, it's more difficult for us to access there. I will say we need to understand from last few years since 2016, when I start my engagement, I felt the need to express ourselves by us. That's why since 2018, we started our logo with Global Refugee-Led Network. Nothing about us without us. What does it mean? It's really important to us being connected in the decision making, in the decision planning and discussion. I will not repeat what you already hear in the speech. I will say we need to, as a scholarly audience, I will request, maybe this is a time we step back and hold ourselves and rethink. There's so many research topics which has been done before, but maybe we need to understand, to question what we are doing. From last few years, we are engaging with our communities from all around the world. From South Africa, from Kampala, from Kenya, from Asia, from Afghanistan, from Pakistan, and in Europe. And we are hearing the same difficulties from the communities. It shows there's a gap in the system. System is not functioning. Either it's policy making, either it's research, or either is about the city's involvement. Then we come up with a New Women Connector, which is a refugee-led, feminist-led organization working with the communities. We come up new approach of discussion, which is no doubt has an amazing influence from the previous scholar, like Dr. Hart's meaningful participation from the letter. And we really discuss and understand what that professor said and why he said active participation requires different level. Doing to, doing with, and doing for. We are living these steps. We are trying to understand these steps, how we can create infinity approach. As you can see in the video before from my colleagues, they all said, we really need to make an infinity like a flow. It shouldn't stop on one point. Working with the refugee or working by refugee does not mean we create more bubbles. It means how we can connect with each other so we can transform our knowledge, our expertise, and we can create, because in the end, we are talking about human rights. We are talking about how can we understand our privilege. Me standing here, I will say I'm a privileged person whom has the access to this domain. So how we can understand and bring more voices and think, work with them, and we can connect with them, and how we can bring justice to this world. From last few months, we have seen Ukraine crisis, and this gives more visibility how we need to work together to act as a responsive when this kind of crisis happens. And as a researcher, I think this is a big responsibility for us. On us, we really need to be felt accountable ourselves, what kind of data we are producing, what kind of knowledge we are generating. Because as a refugee and a researcher, I really request all of you, we need to re-question, we need to unpack these difficult jargons, difficult methodology, and how we can say this knowledge or this production, which is amazing, it shouldn't remain on a one high level. It should goes back to the communities. It should goes with the people. We need to think about women, unaccompanied minor children, communities from LGBTQ communities, and different understanding of languages. Because translation is not a word. Translation is a context, is a history, is a background. So we need to understand when we are creating these knowledges, who has the authority to understand what is knowledge and what is not. Whenever we, our communities, share our stories, we do not want to be listen our stories and present our stories, but we really want to present our story to identify the gaps in the system, either is academic, policy debate, or cities integration plan. So I really encourage all of you to reach out to refugee communities, to co-work with them, to co-design with them. But before that, we need to bring our own knowledges of understanding on the same page. And it's, yes, indeed, requires investment, be questioning, and go back to your funders, to the donor, and ask them and teach them. Yesterday in my panel discussion on knowledges, voice, and shifting power, we put this question, listening to our panelists, we really need to educate our donors. We really need to reflect them, like system is not working and how we can support each other. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Anila, for your. Before we open the floor to all of you, we wanted to start the discussion and the commenting later on with some looking back to the video which we saw. And I want to come back to Mustafa Ario's comment on capacity building, which I think is really an important question for many of us now. How can we actually include capacity recognition? Because I think it's crucial in our research drafting now also, when we're approaching communities, conceptualizing our research designs, and what are the images of refugees that actually drive research, and how do we relate to acknowledge also their capacity and their resources? I think it's an important topic for you as well.
Yes, indeed. I think I will say, rephrase this question. Capacity building of what? Capacity building of whom? And capacity building how? Being involved with the communities, I always hear there are so many UN agencies, international actors who always think communities need capacity building. But for us working with the communities, I think we really need to thinking, maybe we need, as a researcher, we need to build our own capacity to understand their recognition of their capacities. For us, I think we will not name it even as a capacity building, but more like a connection. So we can come on an equal level. We can understand how we can skill up our knowledges, and we can connect our experience. So capacity building should be more like how we can explore, and they can thrilled their experience, and they feel more confident and ownership of these trainings or this connection or this discussion. I must say, research is based on few questions, and we need to give this question as a base to create this capacity building of understanding this question, how we are designing. Yes, we need capacity building, but maybe on the both sides, not only for the communities.
Thanks, Anila.